Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
You know, just think about this for a second. Why are we cutting benefits for our veterans, no pay raises for our military, and cutting our army to a level lower than before World War II? But we are not stopping the payments or benefits to illegal aliens. If that doesn't frost your cookies, nothing will. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America. Followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Morning, morning, morning. Thank you very, very much. Good morning, Kate Smith. Thank you. And good morning. I'm Zeb Bell at Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, don't forget, too, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Get rid of your garbage. 734-6969. Road trip. Let's go on a road trip. I'll bet she doesn't want to go on another one for a while.
No, actually, this road trip, it was fulfilling. I delivered on a promise that I made 2 years ago, got a summer-long project done. However, with all of that said, I'm cool on road trips for a minute.
You know, and one thing I want to say before, I know you got a call coming in, but I want to say this. Gina and I were talking before the program, and we were talking about the Tri-Cities up there in Washington, yes, about how you can get lost, and I said something like, I'm forever taking the wrong exit and going to Richland, Washington, and there was a slight pause on the air, and she said, we did too.
But see, it wasn't going to, it was coming back from Othello. And so it was kind of funny that we took the wrong exit. And so then we had to go up to the next one, turn back around, get back on 395 South, and, you know, it was just kind of the hoo-ha.
Did you see my picture there at the exit? They finally, they put a picture up saying, if you see this person, his picture's on a postcard or a milk carton. I drove around and around and around up there.
Well, this is what we finally figured out, because I was using Verizon Wireless, a VZ Navigator. Yeah, don't use that. Just follow the signs. And because finally that we were like, you know what? We're putting the phone down, and we're going to just do it the old-fashioned way. And we're going to use the signs. And then once we started just following the signs, yeah, we did okay. But so using the Navigator on the phone, they're going to screw you up and make you go in the wrong direction.
You're not just kidding. Well, listen, I'm glad you're back and not there like the Kingston Trio had a song that was called "The Man Who Never Returned."
I was just about the woman that never returned. Seriously.
Do we have a pledger?
We have Al on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Okay, Al, go ahead, please. Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Gina, can you hear me? Deanne just said we're not on the air.
No, I think we were overridden by the EAS system.
Oh, are we back on?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Why the EAS system? I wish they'd give us a little warning or something and let us know.
They never do.
Drives me nuts. Yes, Al, go ahead.
How's George doing? Is that what you named him?
You're not on.
Just a minute, Deanne. We're still getting word that we're not on the air. Al, hold on just a second. They say it's not on the radio, Gina. And we better check that out first and foremost. We're still not back on.
Still the EAS.
Let me know when.
Yeah, I'm listening.
I can hear you two talking.
Well, that's fine, Al. We're not on the air. Now we are back on the air, and we're back on. And that EAS system, I'd like to take those guys and just pop right in the end of their nose sometime, because it absolutely destroys our programming. Al, good morning. Thank you. I want you to do the pledge again, please, if you would. Please, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, sir. Thank you. Now, what else did you say, Al? I'm sorry we interrupted you. We had a little emergency there to take care of.
How's George doing this morning?
George, you mean our bald-headed friend?
Yeah.
He's sitting there gathering dust.
Oh, Calvin and Jack will take care of that.
All right, thanks. I appreciate it, Al. Thank you very much. I had a wonderful, wonderful birthday, and we also right now have the weather coming up, and it's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Hopefully EAS won't bother us on this one. And here now, the world-famous MichaelRogersWeather.com, but we're going to tell everybody about Cheney Flooring and Home Decorations. Oh, my goodness. They're going to be at the craft fair over at the Rupert High School this month, and they've got lots of repurposed furniture, and they will meet or beat any price on flooring. I'll tell you, these folks are wonderful. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945. Look for the blue door. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
This is a test of the emergency alert system. In the event that the weather is going to get crappy between now and Friday, I will call Zeb's house to let him know that. Otherwise, you got sunny skies all week long with a high of 75, overnight low of 53. This has been a test of the emergency alert system. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Okay, Michael. Thank you. Well done. Hey, Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue doors, 678-6945. Oh, now I got to get all back together again and see what we did do, didn't do, gotta do. Here we go. Daryl's Cleaners. Don't forget, absolutely the best. You know what? They can restore items. You've been told maybe, oh, that's all stained up. You can't get the stains out of that. Well, yes, maybe you can. They can help them last and look longer at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Take them in, show Kevin, and I'll tell you what, let Kevin tell you whether he can take care of the problem or not, but at least try. Don't just throw it away. Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Really, really good folks, and they can clean almost anything. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget, too, SafeLink Internet. Idaho's #1 choice for wireless high-speed internet, and I'll guarantee you one thing, they can help you. They've been in our home now for like 6 or 7 years. Absolutely the best. Order now, 677-8000. 677-8000, SafeLink Internet. No credit checks, no contracts required. I'll tell you what, Idaho's #1 choice. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes.
Have you ever been to Bend, Oregon?
Many times.
Did you get lost?
Well, depending on which way you go, I absolutely hate the Tri-Cities.
I've been there 2 or 3 times now, and coming into town, you need to go to here or there, but there is no direction there, and their street signs are terrible. And they have those stupid roundabouts.
Yes.
And I hate them.
You know, Keith...
Why can't the GPS get it straight?
Well, I don't know. Gina said she was having trouble with her GPS, and I know for a fact that those GPSs can be very faulty and not cover everything the way it should be. But the Tri-Cities area up there in Washington, and I know there's people out there laughing and guffawing and saying, oh, come on, it's not that hard. For some reason, I always get mixed up and get in the wrong lane and end up going towards Richland, Washington. And I'm not going to make any excuses. I just got lost.
It's very easy to do. I've been up that area many times, and it is not very well marked. You know, you have your state highways, you got your U.S. highways and everything, but they're not even good at putting up decent street signs.
No, I agree with you. And it is an area where I've talked to many, many people. And they have told me that they've had the same problem going into that area and or coming back down south into the Tri-Cities. And they did the same thing I've done, is get in the wrong lane, and all of a sudden they're headed for Richland, Washington, and it's a mess.
No way back.
You know, and one thing about living in a small town like Murtaugh, if you get lost, that's your fault.
Yeah, and at least you'll find somebody that can talk to you. Or you go to, up there somewhere, you go to a convenience store, and you ask somebody, how do I get to here or there? They'll say, I don't know. I've only been here 3 weeks myself.
Yeah, no kidding. And I appreciate your calling because it makes me feel better. A lot of people that I know have got lost in that area. Keith, God bless you, man. It's always good to hear from you.
People like these roundabouts.
I hate them. I think they're absolutely a waste of pavement. They're a waste of time. They've got one down going towards Spring Creek, Nevada. And out there, what would it be? It'd be south of Elko. And I see no reason for them. I see absolutely no reason for them other than being a confusing entity. And then also truck drivers or guys pulling a trailer like I do most of the time. You're wrecking your tires on the cement and everything. I think they're absolutely hideous.
Absolutely right. I know exactly what you're talking about. And besides that, they take up enormous amount of real estate.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and for what purpose? I mean, it's like okay, let's be real honest. Twin Falls, I think, is absolutely insane for putting up all that curbing at the intersections. You drive a rig that's a horse trailer, you're going to take your tires all apart on that doggone concrete. What good is that?
There's just no rhyme or reason to what they're doing that I can see.
I agree.
It probably is a little faster if everybody was on the same page, and everybody's got somewhere to go, and they want to get there, and they're not worried about the other guy.
Well, I think putting up all that curbing in the middle of an intersection is absolutely, I think the city managers and the people that design those things, these are people that ought to put a Halloween mask on and stay in the closet. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. God bless you, Keith.
You bet.
Thank you. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't forget Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service, 336 South, 450 West of Paul. Let me tell you, if you haven't had your name added onto the list to get your sprinkler systems blown out before they freeze, you better do so. Call 438-2485. That number again, 438-2485. You don't want to have them all damaged for next year. You get on the list. They'll come over, blow out your lines. Everything's going to be hunky-dory. And also, they can prune all your trees, too. Give them a call, 438-2485, Gano Landscaping and Sprinkler Service. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, I was watching Fox News at about 4:30 this morning, 4:05, and the director of the CDC was on there, and he said that he's meeting with the president today to put a lot of notions on the table about how to deal with this outbreak, and it's not really an outbreak of Ebola. I just want to know, do these people practice their speeches so that they never give us a straight answer?
Donna, I'm going to say this about the Ebola virus. I think it's absolutely insane, I'll use that word again that I used just a moment ago, to subject the American public to the disease and the possible disasters that could happen in this country. Right now we have Ebola patients in Delaware, Dallas, Texas, Nebraska, Washington, D.C., and I absolutely am worried, and you got a dogfight going on. What's going on over there?
Oh, I think the people back in the back were making noises, and they like to bark at everybody.
I see. No, I'm very concerned, and I think, quite frankly, we're being lied to or storied to.
You know, I just don't understand how these people, why does not the president ban transportation back into the United States for anyone? All he has to do is put a pen and use his cell phone to it. What is wrong with these people? You know, it just never ceases to amaze me that they can bringing these diseases into our country, and nobody's upset about it.
Well, I know.
Why were those people allowed back into the country?
Let me just throw this at you, and this is not going to ease your concerns. Caller number 2, stay on the line. I'll be right with you. There are many doctors, many doctors that are also politicians, and one of which you've heard of, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, is a physician and also the governor of the great state of Louisiana, and he said emphatically, quote, that the United States should halt flights from Ebola-stricken countries. He said that. He said, I believe that absolutely it's absolutely defying logic, are the words that he used.
Yes. Yeah. I don't understand. Well, I kind of do. I really, maybe I'm going to talk out of place here, but I really think that this is his way of annihilating all of us. Well, getting what he actually wants is hope and change.
Well, let me just throw this out for the audience this morning. Obama is not a doctor. Obama is not a national security advisor. Obama was only a community organizer in his past history. And yet he's telling the generals how to fight a war over in the Middle East with Syria and the troops of ISIS, etc. Obama is not a physician, and yet he is saying that he's going to keep the flights coming in and going out. And like Jindal said, here's the direct quote from Bobby Jindal. The Obama administration keeps saying they won't shut down flights. They instead say we should listen to the quote-unquote experts. In fact, they said it would be counterproductive to stop these flights, and that statement defies logic. Why don't they listen to doctors that know more than Obama does?
Well, there again, you have this narcissistic person in the White House who thinks that he is the god of everybody and everything, or the king, or whatever, and he's not going to listen to anybody. What is it going to take an uprising of we the people? I mean, I really think that's coming pretty soon. Why hasn't this man been impeached?
I'll tell you what, Donna, what you just said was a multiplicity of different things that need to be discussed, but right now I have lost all faith in our federal government under this leadership, if you want to call it leadership. Donna, I got to run and do a commercial. Thank you so much.
You betcha. Have
Thank
a great
you.
day,
All right. Caller, I'll be right with you, I promise. Don't go away. Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. They're open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, and it's still hats off to farmers right now because they appreciate agriculture. They know the wonderful job you do, and stop in, throw that dirty old cap on the floor, get a new one, and a bag of popcorn and a soft drink. Head back out to the field with your cords, your cord ends, fuses, whatever you need at Ramsey Heating and Electric. You better believe it, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
The deal with the roundabouts, I know, is to slow the flow of traffic so people don't get carried away with their speed, especially if they're in Chubbuck, going up towards the fairgrounds up that way. You come down that hill and you gain quite a bit of speed, and it's there to make people force traffic to slow. That's what they're designed for.
I don't care what they're designed for, Riley. I don't care. I don't care if they're designed to make everybody go crazy and enlist in an insane asylum, which I think they are. But I find them to be repulsive. I find them to be tire eaters. I find them to just be a cheap excuse not to obey the speed limit. I find them to be a waste of public funding. I don't like them, and I never will. Back on the East Coast, they're all over the place, and I think an idiot designed them.
You won't get any complaints from me on that.
All right, buddy.
That's just what I was told when I asked how come they were around.
Well, okay, you drive a lot of trucks. What do you think about intersections with all the curbing out in the middle of the intersection when you're driving a truck?
I think the state, if they don't fix them, they ought to be paying for the tires and rims and axles and stuff on the trucks.
There you go.
You go on one of them and you rip off your mud flap and go 20 yards down the street and you get pulled over because you don't have a mud flap on your truck.
There you go.
Ridiculous.
There you go. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank you for your call. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm not going to mention the guy's name, but unless I get verification from him. But I know a guy that works for the College of Southern Idaho, and Deanne knows him too, and boy, I mean, light a fire under him about all those curbings in the middle of intersections and everything. He's a guy you wouldn't expect that would come unwound like a cheap Timex. Denny's at Restaurant. Let's not forget going over to Denny's Restaurant. Our next lunch bunch for Halloween is going to be on the 30th. Thursday the 30th. Oh my goodness, but you can stop in anytime, all the time at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, and get the gift cards for somebody you love and say, hey, here, go share in the great food at Denny's Restaurant. They're going to love it. And by the way, seniors, they've got special menus and AARP discounts. Oh my goodness, you're going to love the food. And the people are so nice at Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley. Oh, and by the way, too, Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, don't forget, the colder weather is right around the corner. I'm not kidding you, it is. And they've got everything for you over there this winter. They've got, first of all the pellets for your pellet stove. Yeah, you know that. And they got the warm winter gloves. They got a great big variety of warm winter gloves in there. And they've got Ariat boots for men and women. I love Ariat boots. Very, very, very comfortable. Stop in and check out the selection. And just go on in and visit with the folks. Really good people at Valley-Wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Everything for the farm, the home, and the ranch at Valley-Wide. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. There is no way in the world that I trust the CDC, Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta. There is no way in the world that I trust the Obama administration telling us all is okay by bringing in the Ebola virus. There is no way that I trust this situation that it is not going to get out of hand. And I'll tell you, there's another virus to be worried about, and God help us, and I mean that, get on your knees. It's called the enterovirus. It's in 43 states right now. It's a paralyzing virus comparable to polio, and it also kills, and 4, I think, or 5 young people have died. Mostly the people that catch this are 3 to 17 years of age. Now, bluntly speaking this morning, let's close the dadgum borders. We don't know where these viruses are coming from, many of which are coming across our southern border because people are sick, people are contagious, and we have no clue what they're bringing across. I am so frustrated with politicians giving lip service, Republican and Democrat. Well, we're going to try to do something about the borders. Well, we're going to try to do something about... Do it. Just do it. Shut the borders down. We have terrorists coming across the border. We have sick people coming across the border. We have gangs coming across the border. We have a continuum of drugs and bad stuff coming across the border. And why won't our government protect us? Just somebody answer that. I don't give a rip if you're a Democrat or a Republican. Just answer that question. Why the strongest, greatest country ever in the world's history is allowing this absolute stupidity of an open, porous border? Here's the Capital Press Ag Minute. I'll be right back.
The Capital Press Ag Minute is brought to you by OnlyAg.com.
Global beef supplies, which are already record tight, are expected to continue tightening for the remainder of 2014 and into 2015. Rabobank Analysis forecasted in their quarterly beef report released Friday. Consumer demand and willingness to pay for that tight supply is being tested, but seem to be showing no signs of slowing, helping to maintain firm processor margins, the analysts say. Tight supply underpin a strong competitive landscape for beef. Beef processors in some countries welcome record prices, but processor margins will come under pressure as they compete for beef. Demand throughout the first half of 2014 and so far in the third quarter has remained strong. This is Hannah Browse.
To receive instant, exclusive, unlimited access to the West Agricultural News Source, register your account today at CapitalPress.com.
Thank you, Capital Press. And don't forget Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Oh, they've got everything over there. They've got all your office furniture like desks and chairs and filing cabinets, and they've got all kinds of furniture over there for you. Stop over and see them, even couches. And they got bunk beds over there, and they've got a new shipment of combat boots. They've got everything. They really do. Brand new merchandise, brand new store, same friendly service. As always, at 112 South, 200 West of Rupert, Snyder's Surplus, you stop over and see those good folks today. I just don't understand why we, the American public, are putting up with, first of all, the Ebola virus coming in here, and why they're not closing down the flights, why they're not just absolutely saying, okay, we're going to box this in. We're going to take care of it over there in Africa. We're going to get it boxed in. We're going to do everything we can on a full court press to eliminate it, but not bring it to this country. Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, do you remember it was in the last year sometime when, Israel was struggling over there and he shut flights down either from or to Israel?
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah.
How he did that? And it was not a problem for him to do that over something that was less than serious compared to this. It's just situational ethics, law enforcement. You know, every time you turn around, this guy is doing his best to destroy this country. Of course, we all know it. It's just how do you stop it?
All right, now, Randy, a couple of real simple questions here. And number one, I know you love your family, and I know your family means everything to you, as it does to me. But right now this morning, on this day, October 6th, how concerned are you that all of a sudden we're going to someday in the near future turn on the radio, television, or pick up the newspaper that says Ebola breakout out of control in the United States? What are your concerns?
Well, it's very concerning. And once this thing breaks, it can be devastating to our entire country, and you get the feeling that that's exactly what he wants.
That's right.
And but how could anybody say that? Well, I don't know. I don't know how these people differentiate from where they live and you and I live. We all live together in the same country. I don't get it.
All right, but now here we have another thing to worry about for our children, and that's the enterovirus that is a paralyzing virus, comparable, like I said a moment ago, to polio, and it's paralyzed a lot of young people, and I think they have over 500 cases that have been administered to, and also 4 to 5 have died, and I am very concerned that these viruses are being brought in across our southern borders, and there's not one of these simpletons that wears a 3-piece suit and wingtip shoes in the Congress, in the Senate, or the House that really are doing a doggone thing to close our borders.
Oh, no. It's, I'm just, infuriated most of the time, and you just say to yourself, where do we turn? Where do we turn for help?
Yeah.
But you see, I guess we just turn to Heavenly Father, I guess, if you're a Christian, and then which is nothing happens without us being proactive.
Yeah.
We could pray all day that the work would get done, but if all we did was sit in the house and pray, it would not get the work done. I've actually got to go get in my truck and go work.
Gee, what a novel idea. But yet you have to go to work, Randy, because you've got to help pay for the money for everybody that's on welfare.
Of course, and so you just hope that people wake up. You just pray that, seriously, I pray that they will, somehow something will occur in their lives, that they will realize how important this country is, just like Dinesh D'Souza says, America, a world without her.
I agree.
And then, of course, what would it be like? And if you've read that book, I have, and it just... I'm so scared some days that all thing left is to turn to God.
That's right.
I don't know where else to go.
There is no other place to go. That is the source. Randy, I got to run. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Want to remind everybody about Barry Equipment and Rental. 3 locations: Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, South Lincoln and Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. And don't forget, they got the big aerial lifts. Yep, get way up in the air. Up in the air. Yes, they can. And they got all kinds of Coyote tractors over there. They've got a great selection, great financing, great people to work with. Everything you need to lease and or buy for your equipment needs is right there at Barry Equipment and Rental in Twin Falls, Jerome, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. Barry Equipment and Rental. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. This whole situation is such that, this open borders immigration policy is so ridiculous. I have, with the not banning flights coming from these Ebola countries, or at least finding out who these people are. I mean, this is all about this open borders immigration policy that the president has initiated, and of course, it comes close to home. I have 3 cousins that happen to work at that Nebraska Medical Center, and I've been visiting with them. I just got back from a trip visiting my relatives. I was born in Iowa, and so I got a chance to meet with a lot of my cousins back there, and most of my relatives are in that area. And they're wondering what the heck is going on too. They work in that center and so forth, but on another issue, we're getting ripped off on gas. I never paid more than about $3.09 to $3.15 for gas, even in all over the Midwest.
Well, wait a minute, Adrian, just a minute. I want to stay on point here with this issue on Ebola, and I want to stay on point with the enterovirus, and I want to stay on point with the absolute idiocy that's being performed of not protecting the general public from this administration. And when I say not protecting the general public, it also goes to Homeland Security Chief Jay Johnson. I don't know if you had the opportunity to watch him the other night. He was on Friday evening with Brett Baer, and Brett Baer lowered the boom on this guy to show how totally inept and, quite frankly, stupid he really is. Brett Baer asked him questions about detainees and terrorists that had been caught on the border, and the man looked kind of vague. He made some excuses. He looked at his wristwatch. He did everything he could to try to stall. They went to a commercial break. And after the commercial break was over, he admitted that he had received a telephone call from the powers that be, and he came up with information about some of the detainees on our border system. I don't know about you, but that wasn't very comforting to learn that the Homeland Security Chief is about as bright as a burned-out light bulb.
Well, and the whole thing is, it ties in. The Secret Service has been put in their Homeland Security. It's Homeland Insecurity is what it is. And, of course, the big function, if you go back to our Constitution again, the main function of government is to protect its citizens and its rights. Well, we're not being protected, and our rights are being violated by the very government that's supposed to be protecting us.
That's the bottom line. You're a doctor of agronomy, and correct me if I'm wrong, and you know all about how plants grow and what's needed to have plant growth, etc., in a healthy environment. Well, when you have another doctor of another type, like Governor of Louisiana, Bobby Jindal, and he is also a physician that knows, he's taken the Hippocratic Oath, and all of a sudden he comes out and asks the question as to why we're not curbing flights to try to stem Ebola. You got to wonder what idiocy is leading the White House.
Yeah, it is. We basically have the inmates run the asylum back there for sure, and like I say, the incompetence, it's unbelievable. But, I don't see our elected officials jumping up and down, getting before Congress. I don't know why they don't take a firmer stand on these issues the way they should. I just, and this whole, it's not just the Ebola, it's the immigration, of all these terrorists that are coming in here, and the terrorists are already here.
I agree.
We have a potential jihad right here with all the immigrants from Iraq and Iran coming through the refugee center here at the College of Southern Idaho.
Absolutely.
It's just ridiculous.
You have touched on a subject that I'm going to try to do a segment on later this week, but I'm absolutely in total agreement with you, and I thank you for all the information you sent, too, especially that sign. I'm going to talk about that later. Adrian, I got to run. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're certainly welcome. Have a great
God bless. Yeah, I just do not understand why this country is just basically not protecting us and opening up their arms and saying, come one, come all. Ooh, you're sick? Sorry about that. I've been taking some physical therapy at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. And I got to tell you something, I am impressed. And I've been to a lot of places and heard a lot of things, but I'll tell you, Nick Greenwell and his staff over at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, they know. They've got a staff that absolutely understands. They've got a great mix of exercises. They've got extremely nice facilities, the only ones to have a pool for the hydrotherapy. I absolutely urge you to call their number and make an appointment today, 678-1191, 678-1191, and that's the number for Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation in Burley. People work here, they grew up here, they really understand. So please remember that number, because Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 678-1191, helping you get back to being you. Nice people. Love that pool. That hydrotherapy has really helped me a lot. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned for my family. I'm very concerned for your family. I'm very concerned for an outbreak that all of a sudden could take on epidemic proportions. There are the naysayers that sit there and they go, now worry about it. The CDC's got it under complete control. No, they do not. And don't be like a clown looking for a circus telling me that either. They are just kind of jabbing in the dark. They have no clue. They don't know about the enterovirus. They don't know about the seriousness of having the Ebola virus. And what happens if it develops mutant strains? And it can be airborne. Think about that. It's happened before. What happened with the security in this country? Jay Johnson, the Homeland Security Chief, hasn't got a clue. I got to go back to that. I know I'm jumping here a little bit, but when I watched that interview the other night, and the questions that were asked of him, and the man got red in the face, and he avoided the answers, he was not informed or misinformed, he was nervous, he had no clue what he was answering and how he was answering, it didn't give me any comfort whatsoever that man, Jay Johnson, is the Homeland Security Chief. It did more to make me nervous than it did to make me feel comfortable. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It's time for the weather forecast, and the weather is brought to you by Mad River Laser. I was in there the other day and had a chance to look at her new store at 502 East Street in Rupert. Oh, my goodness, home run. They hit it out of the park. What a great store. You can stop in and see all the caps and the sweatshirts and the T-shirts and everything they've got for promotional items for your business. Oh, they do a wonderful job. And she's such a nice lady. I mean, just really nice folks serving you. So stop in. That's where I'm going to have my new Zeb at the Ranch stuff all made up. You bet. Mad River Laser, 502 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. Here's the weather forecast with Michael Rogers.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. It's going to be sunny all week long. How about that? You need to really enjoy this, okay? So they got 4 inches of snow on the ground at Fairbanks last night, and they're getting 5 more tomorrow. You're going to be sunny, high 75, 53 for the overnight low, and it's going to last all week. Enjoy the weather, so what weather you got?
There you go. Michael Rogers Weather, brought to you this hour by Mad River Laser. Really nice, folks. Stop in and just kind of browse around. You're going to love it. 502 East Street in Rupert, right on the square. Quick note, and then we'll take some more calls. My birthday last week. I cannot ever thank all of you people enough. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All the cards, all the gifts, all the notes and the phone calls and everything else. Thank you so much. And I received so many unique gifts and everything. I just want to say thanks. I had everything from Ranch House chocolates with Dina Newcomb all the way to how many more days we've got to bear with Obama from Vicky over at Vicky's Country Gardens. I mean, I had some really unique gifts, and I don't want to forget anybody, so I'll just lump it all together and say God bless all of you for the cards and the gifts and the well wishes. I had a ball, and Saturday night, it even continued up to Saturday night. We went out and had dinner at Duck Uglies, and man, the people in there were so nice to us and everything. We just had a ball. So thank you very, very much. By the way, I'm sure that Gina's had this on the air already. The Oakley Elementary is closed today because of a break in the pipes supplying water to the school, and arrangements are made to supply lunch for the junior and senior high school students, and the crews hope that they'll have this taken care of and fixed by tomorrow morning. So Oakley Elementary School is closed today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Morning, Zeb.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, happy belated birthday, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I remember we both share the same birthday.
Yes, and a happy birthday back at you.
Yeah, so, anyways, let's deal with the Ebola virus and all.
Yes.
That's got me kind of concerned, too. I mean, what are they going to do if it does mutate and become airborne? How are we going to control it then?
I don't know. I mean, I have no clues. I am not involved in medicine. I've been in hospitals a lot of my life, but I'll guarantee you if that mutant strain changes, and it could be with touch, it could be through a handshake, it could be airborne, if someone sneezes, I mean, it's absolutely scary to think that if it does become an airborne type of virus, why it could just devastate our country and any country.
Yeah, I really hope they start working on a vaccine for it right away.
Well, I'm sure they are, but, you know, there again with Obamacare and the cutbacks that have happened for research and everything else, there's money that's just not there anymore, Rodney.
Well, we need to get rid of Obamacare, ASAP.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for your call, as always. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, talk to you later.
God bless. Thank you. Hey, by the way, Sophie's Chatterbox right there on the square at 530 E Street on the square in Rupert. What a bakery. All wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, and delicious cinnamon rolls. I love those cinnamon rolls. And she serves a whale of a breakfast over there. Breakfast, lunch, and supper open Monday through Friday, 6 to 6, Saturdays 6 to 2. Sophie's Chatterbox on the square in Rupert. Really nice people. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. By the way, I was watching a newscast, I believe it was Thursday night, I think. And one of the commentators brought up unfinished stories. You know, stories that have been superseded because of the IRS scandal and because of the Ebola outbreak and because of everything else. Stories that have been swept under the rug and we don't hear the answers to, or we don't hear any finalization to. And it is a thought. What happened to the Bo Bergdahl case? Just kind of went away. You know, we were supposed to hear everything by August 15th. I'll be darned. That was almost 2 full months ago. We haven't heard a word. And we don't know about the possible desertion charges. We don't know about the possible consorting with the enemy charges, dereliction of duty charges. We don't know. We haven't been told anything. The only thing that we are quite vividly aware of is that Obama turned back 5 heinous killers of Al-Qaeda back into the wilds to kill again. And they traded for Bo Bergdahl. But I guess maybe I kind of would like to know what he did or didn't do. I kind of would like to know if he's not a soldier of repute, and he's a soldier that turned his back on his other soldiers and walked away. And this was supposed to be given to us, like I said, almost 2 full months ago, and you hear nothing. Doesn't that bother you? It does me. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me your thoughts on that. And then also our Congress, with nothing better to do, is going to sit down and probably pass a no vote. No to using any more styrofoam boxes to keep your meal warm that you couldn't eat all of it in the restaurant. You want to take it home, no more styrofoam boxes. Yeah, Congress hasn't got anything better to do with all the world problems and all the mischief that's going on in the world. They're going to sit down and talk about styrofoam. Yeah, buddy. Hey, don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The big tire sale going on right now, and whether you're looking for the Terramax HT, the Eclipse tire for your car, the Ultra Z900, or the Open Country AT2 for your pick-em-up trucks and SUVs, they have the best in tires, the best in tread design, and they've got a big tire sale going on right now. And many of the custom wheels are on sale. And the best, underline the word best because it's the truth, the best in brake service. These people really know brakes. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all there at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family and Paul, John on Poline and Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Yep, the best. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All right, your turn. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, here, I was sent this. Now, give me just a moment to get through this, please. This sounds like a bunch of gobbledygook, but of the 10,535 pages of Obamacare, somebody condensed it down to 4 sentences, and they claim, they claim that every last word of this is absolutely true, and they are used in the Obamacare handbook, okay? Now, I'm going to read some of these to you to read the gobbledygook. So understand, I'm not making this up. This is what was sent to me. Number 1, in order to insure the uninsured, we first have to uninsure the insured. Number 2, next we require the newly uninsured to be reinsured. Number 3, to reinsure the newly uninsured, they are required to pay extra charges to be reinsured. Number 4, the extra charges are required so that the original insured who became uninsured and then became reinsured can pay enough extra so that the original uninsured can be insured, which will be free of charge to them. Now, do you understand why I make fun of government? And why I absolutely think we've got a bunch of nincompoops running our government. I'm not making that up. That's exactly how it was sent to me this morning. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. You know, Gina, after reading that, it almost makes you think those were the same people that designed the Tri-Cities traffic mess.
Yes, and honestly, there is a roundabout in the Tri-Cities, too, which, honestly, roundabouts should never be put in here in America because it just confuses us. We don't know how to use a roundabout.
What good are they? I'm going to be very open, and if you want to criticize me for condemning them, you go right ahead. But what good are they?
Well, I can see from the theoretical standpoint, they're supposed to help with the flow of traffic and keep the flow of traffic moving in a busy intersection. However, you have to know how to use them. And here in America, we don't know how to use them. We don't know the concept of a roundabout. So please do not insert them in places where it's going to confuse people.
And the other question I've got, and this isn't so much as a question as it is a profound statement, that if you're pulling a horse trailer, you're just going to rip the living you-know-what out of your tires and everything else on these things. And it's just like in Twin Falls, great minds that believe in the curbing system in the middle of intersections with the curbing system made for Volkswagens.
I know, right? And I drove the Volkswagen for a week straight, and of course now it's up in Othello. Volkswagens turn great. Trucks that are hauling something or a big old horse trailer, they're not meant to turn that tightly. And so roundabouts just don't work in rural areas.
And you said something earlier, though. I want to quickly say, unless we know how to drive through them, and I'll be honest with you, I don't.
A lot of people don't know how to drive through a roundabout. Now, in Europe, very, very commonplace, of course, a lot of them drive smaller cars so they can navigate through the roundabout.
Yep.
Here in our area, we don't know the concept of a roundabout. You can read about it, you can learn about it, but for people who, they don't teach it in driver's ed.
That's
right. They do not teach how to use roundabouts in driver's ed. And I was talking to my better half, and there's that roundabout in Twin Falls. A lady went through the roundabout, and she was so confused. She just threw up her hands in the air, and he had to, literally slam on his brakes so he didn't hit her because she did not know how to use the roundabout. If you don't know how to use it, don't go through.
I appreciate that. Do we have a call quickly?
You do?
I got 30 seconds, and that's it, caller. 30 seconds, and I'm going to have to cut you off. Go.
Yeah, I think some of this curbing system that's set for Volkswagen is a conspiracy against those of us that like big vehicles.
Okay. All right. Thank you for your call. Well stated. Thank you very much. Oh, I tell you what, it's just frustrating to me. Calls will be welcome next hour, and we're going to have Frosty Woolridge on at 9:06, and boy, we got a lot to talk with him. Stay tuned. Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. I'll be back in 6 minutes. Oh, my. Lock your doors. Lock your windows. Maybe even wire them to 220 or something. I don't know. Good morning, Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, and, of course, our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and we praise them. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
You know, I'm fussy about my place, and I'll guarantee everything I pick up, and I want to make sure that it's thrown away, and then I want it out of there. And that's why I have my trash picked up by Western Waste Services. Always at my disposal to get rid of my garbage. Absolutely. Get on the route service. Call them at 734-6969. And by the way, if you're cleaning out a basement or the garage or maybe your shop area, need a dumpster? They've got them in various sizes just for you. Fill them up and they'll come get them. Hey, 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Let's see. I mentioned about Oakley Elementary is going to be closed today because of the water pipe breaking. They hope to have it fixed, as the news said just a moment ago, by tomorrow. So there you go over in Oakley. And by the way, too, I want to remind you about our dear friend Joel Heward, manager of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Flexible hours and a family serving you by going to the rural towns and the churches and giving you family attention when there's the passing of a loved one. Please write down the number and give them a call. Really nice people. 436-5636. That number again, 436-5636. Always serving you with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. You know, I look forward to Mondays because this man is honest in his appraisal of what's going on in the world. This man is very straightforward with his thoughts. He's an excellent writer, and he's been right. I mean, you can have different guests on the radio, and they'll say different things, but this man has been right. His track record is spot on, and he warned us a long time ago about open borders and the mess it would cause for this United States of America, and right now it's coming to fruition, and nobody seems to care. Good morning, Frosty. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. And I want to bring everyone's attention. If you go to newswithviews.com that's a conservative website, Freedom's Phoenix, later this day, as soon as my internet gets connected, or before it's news.com, and of course many of the other sites that I write for. But you'll see my face on the top there at newswithviews.com. I've been writing there for 10 years. I have started a new series, and this one's so serious it almost scares the living daylights out of me. The title of my new series, America and Western Countries, Becoming the World's Refugee Camps. And what I have discovered, and I've got a 5-part series here. Part 1 is Western countries being overrun by third world immigration. And what I talk about in the first one, and I can give some quotes today from this one, the part 2 will be the quality of life and standard of living will decline as the numbers of immigrants go up. Part 3 will be the fragmenting civilizations with incompatible religions and cultures. And then part 4 will deal with the resources and the environmental damage. And then part 5 will be where it all leads in the end. Mm-hmm. I want everyone to know that's listening again, and I want you, the individual American citizen, to understand that we're about to add 100 million immigrants to this country in the next 30 years. And right now, as of 2014, we have 41.3 million foreign-born immigrants that call America home. And they arrived from 140 war-torn or starvation-prone countries from around the world, and they reached our shores from failed cultures, failed educational systems, failed economic systems, and horrendously overpopulated countries around the globe. They flee or they fled countries like India, China, Somalia, Mexico, Bangladesh, Congo, Ethiopia, Honduras, Pakistan, Indochina, Argentina, Brazil, and again, 140 other countries, stemming from the fact that chaos, starvation, and human misery explode off the charts. And this refugee immigration solution, shared by Canada, Europe, Australia, and America, fails to grasp the fact that all 140 countries from around the world continue adding 80 million people net gain annually. In other words, the line of desperate humans never ends as to lack of fresh water, food, energy, and resources. So I think you're going to find this extremely sobering. I think you're going to find it extremely just plain, well, sobering is a good word. Some could say otherwise. But this is what we face, and I really want to talk about this because we are becoming the refugee camp of the world. Notice they're not fleeing off to China. They're not fleeing to Bangladesh. They're not fleeing over to India. They're not fleeing to Mexico. They're fleeing to America and the Europe and Australia and Canada because we're the only countries left that are viable because we for the last 50 years have maintained stable populations. So anyway, that's what I want to talk about, and let's jump into it right now.
All right, now, I'm probably going to draw your ire by jumping onto this subject this morning and asking this question, but I think it's very important because of the fleeing to this country and the complete lack of caring by our government to close down our borders. We right now are seeing the Ebola virus being spread around Delaware, Dallas, Texas, Nebraska, Washington, D.C. I think this administration is absolutely guilty of atrocities against us for letting that happen. We're also seeing a new virus called the enterovirus, which is a paralyzing type virus like polio, of which I know more than most people, and they're just letting it go. And we don't know how it was brought into this country. We don't know who brought it into this country, but yet our southern borders is a one-all take-all. I am absolutely incensed at our government for letting this happen. I'm sorry, that's where I want to start this morning.
Well, and that plays into exactly what I'm talking about as America becomes the new refugee camp for the world's poor, the world's diseases, the world's consequences of a lack of a plan and countries that are failing. And this Ebola, the fact that the President of the United States cannot put or will not put two and two together, and the fact that all of our 100 senators are not clamoring at the White House door saying we must shut down these borders, we should not allow flights from Africa to come into this country with all of these individuals, because the gestation time is anywhere from 2 to 21 days for Ebola. That means that those people, and especially the Ebola fellow that came out of Liberia and started infecting other people and wasn't stopped or caught until he came down with, he was atypical before, and before he became, showed his symptoms, he was circulating. Well, guess how many more people from Liberia are coming into our country, and or the fact that this president is sending now not just 3,000 troops, but 3,600 to go into that Ebola infestation situation. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got to be a complete idiot to think that you're going to come out of this thing without being infected yourself. We don't have the defenses for such a vector of this disease, and so literally we're putting 3,600 of our military personnel at risk, when in fact what we should do is let them alone, leave them alone, and leave Africa alone, and deal with its own problem, because we're only going to spread the problem instead of solve it.
Okay, now wait a minute. Let's stop for a second. I want to ask you this. Obama, and caller, I'll be right with you. I got to phrase this to Frosty, and then we'll take your call in just a minute. Stand by. Frosty, here we have a man that's president of the United States that has not done a doggone thing in his life other than be a community organizer and a student. And yet he's telling the generals how to fight a war. And now he's telling people in medicine what to do about Ebola. We have Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal that is also a physician. A lot of people don't remember that. And he quite frankly said that it's absolutely defying logic that we're not shutting off these flights into the United States. He's a doctor. I'd rather listen to Jindal and others like him than I would Obama.
You would be correct. It defies logic. And so that's what you have in Washington, D.C. right now. You've got a collective of illogical politicians. They are irrational, they're illogical, and they're simply not using common sense and logical reasoning power. Critical thinking, it's called. If you have a country like Liberia or any of the other countries in Africa that are, fomenting Ebola because of their lack of hygiene, their lack of sanitation, their contaminated waters, and all that goes with these diseases, why would you import people from those countries into our country as if it would not make any difference, and that the disease would just leave itself there in that country of Liberia or any of Africa? But in fact, the disease is coming over here because the President of the United States is allowing it and, in fact, inviting it to happen by not shutting down the flights coming here. And if I remember correctly, several other countries have shut off flights already because they have common sense and rational leaders.
Absolutely. We've got a caller with a quick question. Go ahead, caller, real fast, please.
Yeah, right here in this area, we have a refugee center that's brought in, according to the paper, over 2,000 refugees from Iraq and Iran and some of these countries. Frosty, how many of these refugee centers are there? You probably know, around the country. Apparently they're all over the country and bringing in potential terrorists and so forth. I'm sure a lot of them are real refugees, but I'm sure a lot of them are not. Could you elaborate on that or find out what that information is? Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Frosty, please.
That was an excellent remark. As a matter of fact, there has been solid evidence that there are 22 Islamic training camps here in the United States of America right now. 22 Islamic training camps where they have bought, with the oil money, they've bought up, 50, 60, 80, 100 acres, and they've created their own compounds. And I am in the process right now of doing some research on that. But these are verifiable. These Islamic training camps are going on, and I understand that the FBI is supposed to be at least monitoring them. But the fact is, these Islamics are using free speech and the private property rights in order to create these training camps. And that's right. As a matter of fact, the Wyoming governor last year asked for a resettlement program for Somalians, and I think there's well over 2,000 Somalians, refugees, right there in Cheyenne, Wyoming right now, and they are completely destroying the school system. They're completely living on nothing but welfare. They're completely living on the taxpayers' back. And again, as my series will note, 80 million more desperate, starving people every year are added to the planet, and so there's no way to solve it by just bringing them here and creating refugee camps. And so what we're creating is more of those two that bombed the Boston Marathon last year. We're creating more of the guys who go around beheading people in more Oklahoma 2 weeks ago. We're going to see more and more of these refugee camp Islamic Muslim refugees manifest their culture and manifest their way of life on us. And Zeb, this is illogical, and the president really is. I fail to see how he is the president of the United States. He is the president of La La Land, or some other understanding, and it's beyond me because I'm a man of common sense, rational thought, critical thought, and there's no way if I were president of the United States I'd keep flying in all of these Ebola affected individuals from Liberia and the other Western countries.
But wait a minute. Let's just stop, take a deep breath. Let in, let out, just like the Karate Kid. Okay, now, here's the point. You have been in other foreign countries. I have been in other foreign countries. You have traveled all over the world. So have I. And no other country would allow an open, porous border system like we are. What is the problem, Frosty Woldridge? Why can't we close our borders? Why can't we police our borders? Why don't we know the sick people coming in, perhaps with Ebola or the internal virus? Why do we have this mess, and why do we only get lip service from our politicians?
Well, first of all, the Republicans are literally get lobbyists to come in and say we need more cheap labor. So the lobbyists and the moneyed corporations who are now running the U.S. government and affecting everything, the corporations, the corporatocracy, if you will, are the ones on the Republican side that simply want more cheap labor to displace American citizens at a lower wage. So the Republicans are part of this. The Democrats are the same, and they're also attempting to gain more third world voters that will vote for them and keep them in office and literally work toward a one-party system. That is what I am seeing as a critically thinking American citizen. And then number 3, the American people simply are sitting back on their butts watching NFL football or hockey or whatever they're watching, reruns of Friends, and they're not participating in this constitutional republic. Not enough of them. NumbersUSA.org only has 2 million members. CapsWeb.org, I think, has about 500,000 right now. FAIR has about 250,000, FAIRUS.org. Every person listening to this program should be registered with those three organizations in order to empower yourself. There should be, in Numbers and CapsWeb.org, there should be 10 million Americans, 20 million, and yet there are only 2 million, and there's no way that the American people are taking action against this, and that's why it is continuing, and that's why the borders are unguarded, and that anybody can walk across the borders and waltz into this country because there's no military down there. There's only barbed wire in a few places, and literally open country. I've seen that 2,000-mile border. It's totally unguarded, and it's a joke. And yet the American people simply are not gathering together to protest this, and that's why it's continuing.
Frosty, right now this morning, you and I are raising the alarms to people that are within our listening audience. But you know as well as I do that unless the American public stands up and says, wait a minute, we don't want any more people brought in here with Ebola. We need to box this thing in right now. Wait a minute, we don't want to see the enterovirus take any more lives or paralyze any more children. We need to close our borders right now. Unless the American public literally, and people get scared when you use this word, but the word is revolt against the idiocy and incompetency of our government, nothing's going to happen, Frost.
That's correct, and that's why nothing is happening, because the American people are apathetic to the point of, again, with only 2 million of us in Numbers USA and of course CapsWeb.org, you don't have enough fighting collective empowerment, and so everybody gets to be, and I write about this, we are headed toward a self-inflicted, a totally self-inflicted destiny. And that destiny is going to be a self-inflicted victimization date. At some point, our destiny will be sealed because we will have simply overrun ourselves. And once these 100 million immigrants coming in at 100,000 every 30 days, right now, and it would be over 200,000 coming in if the Senate 744 bill passes, we will have self-inflicted a suicide of our civilization, our way of life, our ethos, our language, and our culture. And the only thing that you and I can do is give the clarion call, and if Americans don't stand up and don't speak out, which they haven't, and they haven't for the last 10 years now that I've been doing this full time, then we simply will watch ourselves become a victimized civilization that once it goes past fail-safe, no one gets out of this thing very well, and it will just simply be a failed civilization where poverty and lowered standard of living and quality of life will just turn into a third world country. That's where we're headed, Zeb, and I don't know how to be any more clear about that.
Let me ask you this, Frosty, at this time, and we're almost out of time. I got a minute left here. Do you want my audience to follow along on the website and read all the different articles? How do you want them to keep up on what you're writing?
Well, yeah, definitely every Monday and Thursday I write these compelling, powerfully, well-researched, totally researched, and experiential articles on what I feel like I'm writing chapters to the demise and the death of America, but somebody's got to do it because it's being completely ignored by NPR, it's completely ignored by PBS, it's completely ignored by CNN and Fox, and Laura Ingraham ignores it, Jim Bohannon ignores it, everyone at ABC, NBC, CBS, they are ignoring what we have happening to us. So if you want to at least know what's happening, I'm literally one of the few journalists in this country that has 6 continents worth of experience in 40 years. I can see this as clearly as I can see the sunshine outside my window right now. And at least if you understand what's coming at us with this series, America and Western countries becoming the world's refugee camps, you might start creating, a chain of Americans who care enough to get involved and join the organizations that I put out, and also those two, the Gumballs, the Gumballs, Poverty and Immigration by Roy Beck is the best 5-minute video in the world, and the Immigration by the Numbers off the Charts by Roy Beck is the best 10-minute. Those are all on my websites and so forth. Then you can make a difference. Otherwise, we just keep standing by watching this parade continue, and all of us, in the end, all of our children will become victims of this 100 million immigrants added to this country legally in the next 30 years. That's all I can do. I don't know what else to do. They won't touch me on 60 Minutes. I'm too hot to handle. I'm too factual. I have too much clarity. I'm too articulate. 60 Minutes does not want to touch this. And Brian Williams and certainly Diane Sawyer and David Muir and Scott Pelley don't want to touch it. Bill O'Reilly doesn't want to touch it. Wolf Blitzer won't touch it. And yet this is going to affect every American and every immigrant that's going to be in this country in the next 30 years.
I could not agree more. Frosty, I appreciate it. I got to run. Frosty Woldridge, Golden, Colorado. Please, I'm looking forward to next Monday, and God's blessings to you, and I really appreciate your writing this last piece. It's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you. Frosty Woldridge in Golden, Colorado. And so far, he has been spot on with his predictions as to what's happening in this country because of no border security. Hey, by the way, I want to remind you, too, when you think about life insurance, always think about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. When you think about health insurance, think again, Cameron and Siemens Insurance. They know. Retirement planning, employee benefits. When you think about your financial future, yes, sirree, remember Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean and Todd, there to serve you, very dedicated and accessible, right there at their office on Highway 24 in Rupert. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. The number to call, 436-4424. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Well, if you didn't, then you better get a hold of Mount Harrison Audiology right now today. They offer a complete wellness program, and you need to have your hearing screened? Well, please call Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, today at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, and she's located at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room, and the number to call, 312-0957, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Well, if not, get a hold of Mount Harrison Audiology today. All right. Oh, by the way, too, I want to remind you, let's see, real quick about Let's Ride. I've got to get this in, and then we're going to go right to Alliance Defending Freedom. Don't forget Let's Ride, and with the nice weather right now in the 70s, you're saying, well, it looks like it's just going to be a wonderful fall, and then all of a sudden the snow's going to come, and you're not ready with your brand new snowmobile needs. Oh, they've got them. They've got all kinds of brand new snow machines over there at Let's Ride. They've got all the accessories, and by the way, too, they've got all the ATVs that I mentioned just a moment ago. Showroom just filled, so you can get up in the hills and enjoy. And they've got a fantastic service department. Brad and the rest of the crew taking care of you at Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Don't forget, absolutely, that's where the fun is sold. Really good people. Let's go to the phone lines right now, and we have a lovely lady on my show that I always look forward to having on Mondays, and that's Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. Good morning, Carrie. How are you?
Okay, Zeb, good morning. How are you doing? And before I go any further, I heard it was your birthday on Thursday, so I wanted to wish you a happy belated birthday.
Well, how nice of you. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I'm getting to be an old fogey, so thank you very much. I appreciate that. Carrie, I want to start things off. I know this town very well. I've been to this town in Arizona, Peoria, Arizona, and they really kind of stepped in it, I think, at the Peoria Unified School District because they said that there would be no personal Bibles on private desk areas of the teachers. Whoa, what's going on here? Tell us about it.
Right, and the bottom line is that teachers do not relinquish their First Amendment protections when they go through the school door. And here we had a very simple situation. You know, some teachers had personal Bibles on their desks, just like they would have, say, a teaching award, pictures of their family, pictures of their students, just typical personal items that one has on their desk when they're at work. And the Freedom from Religion Foundation sent a letter to the Peoria School District saying that this was not acceptable under the First Amendment. And unfortunately, the principals at some schools instructed the teachers to remove the Bibles from their desks, despite the fact that that's not at all corresponding with the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Carrie, I'm just a little vague on this because in this day and age where our rights and our freedoms should be first and foremost, and people should be aware of what they are and what they can and can't do against the Constitution and the amendments, etc., how can these people with this school board be that vague and, quite frankly, I'll use the word that dumb, that they would try to impose this?
I think you have a lot of school administrators who just are not familiar with the law, and they become fearful when they receive these bullying letters from groups like the Freedom from Religion Foundation. And so I think that oftentimes there's not necessarily an ill intent. I think it's simply they just don't understand the law. And the law is clear. There's no legitimate basis for public schools to prohibit employees from having Bibles at their desks for their own personal use. It's as simple as that.
You know, when I was in high school, and of course we already said something about my birthday, which was a long time ago when I was in high school, there were Bibles on the bookshelf in the school library, and many students brought their Bibles to school and during free time would read the Bibles, whether it was outside on the school lawn, on the campus of the high school or whatever. What happened to our society where all of a sudden this is taboo?
It's really hard to say, and again, I really think a lot of it has to do with just general ignorance and confusion about the law. You know, there's the First Amendment, the Constitution protects people's private religious expression. This goes really beyond even the four corners of, say, a desk or a bookcase. But you know, teachers and private individuals are able to express themselves and their religion and their affiliations. And again, I think we have activist groups that confuse public schools with inaccurate information about the First Amendment. And for this particular situation, if a teacher has a Bible on their own private desk, it's highly doubtful that someone walking by suddenly thinks that the public school is, pushing or endorsing the Bible as curriculum. And again, these teachers have freedom to keep unobtrusive religious items in the private work areas around their desks.
Absolutely. Now, another story comes out of Wilmington, North Carolina, and I can't wait to have you tell me about this, but supposedly in a drama production, there was something that was deemed offensive because there was a religious message inside the production. Please, bring me up to speed on this.
Right. This took place at a community college, and colleges are supposed to be the marketplace of ideas. And students go to colleges and universities because they want to learn from other people. They want to learn diverse viewpoints. They want to engage in discussion. I mean, that's sort of the hallmark of education, this free exchange of ideas. And unfortunately, at this school, at the community college in Wilmington, Cape Fear Community College, a drama instructor, the advisor of the drama club, instructed 17-year-old Justin that his particular plays that he wanted to perform were potentially offensive and that he needed to dumb them down, and simply just because they explained themes of Christianity and Christ, and yet that same drama club department also was fine with plays pertaining to rape and incest. And it's just, on its face, it's really sad.
Why is there, in your opinion, Carrie, this, and I've noticed almost all the stories that I report on my program, not only through you with the Alliance Defending Freedom, but other stories, there seems to be a concentrated effort all across the United States to anything Christian or anything relating to Jesus Christ or faith. Oh, right away, we've got to discard that. We've got to hide it. We've got to cover it up. We've got to get rid of it because it might be, quote unquote, offensive. When did faith and kind of the Norman Rockwell style of living back in the 60s, why did that all of a sudden become so offensive?
It's really hard to say, and I think there was some kind of misinformation campaign that was put forth because the First Amendment does not require colleges, universities, schools to purge its campus of religion or of Christianity. And that's effectively, like you said, what goes on, and goes on frequently and seems to be even more frequently as of late. And this student, Justin, I had the privilege of getting to talk with him over the phone a few days ago, and this is a student who struggled with depression, struggled with all kinds of issues, and he developed these plays as a means to express the hope that he himself got through his journey. And he decided that his only hope, his only help mentally was through Christ, and he wanted to help other students who were facing similar difficult situations, not just with depression and mental issues, but other things. And so he intentionally created these plays to address difficult life issues, but giving these students hope at the end, the hope that he himself had found. And so it's particularly sad that this instructor told him that it might offend someone and that he needed to dumb it down. And that's why Alliance Defending Freedom, kind of stepped in, sent a school letter and said, look, the Constitution does not require you whatsoever to purge your campus and your program of Christianity. In fact, a public university and college, it requires that, you respect and tolerate all beliefs, and you don't single out and pick and choose who gets to speak and who doesn't. And so we're confident and hopeful that the school will look at this letter and change their policy.
Let me ask you this, and I don't want you to betray any part of a personal or private conversation, but while you talked to this young man and you were visiting with this young man, what did you note about his mental and verbal responses to you? Did he sound okay with the way things had gone? Did he sound self-assured that he was doing the right thing? What was his general attitude about this?
I was very impressed with Justin. Justin, explained to me that he'd gone to college, he's excited about going to school to learn new things, to learn from other people. And if anything, he was just sad. He was sad that he was singled out for his plays and his shows, especially when he performs them and does them as a way to provide hope for people, as a way to express himself. It's really an extension of who he is. And he was sad, but he was strong in his conviction that he had a right to be there just like everybody else, and he was hopeful that the instructor would take heed to the letter.
Absolutely. Well, I just absolutely am high on what you folks do, the Alliance Defending Freedom. And to follow these stories and their net outcome, please give us all the different locations and sites as to where people can follow what you're doing with Alliance Defending Freedom.
They can go to alliancedefendingfreedom.org, or they can go to adsmedia.org. And before I get off, I would like to say we had breaking news this morning. I don't know if you were able to see it because you were on air, but unfortunately the Supreme Court of the United States denied review in all of the marriage cases that were before it. And so this, just to be clear, this decision does not take up the issue now. It just means the marriage battle will continue. We have several federal courts, including those in the 5th, 6th, 8th, and 11th circuits, that still have cases working their way to the Supreme Court, and we're we're going to continue to be a resource and a leader in this effort for freedom of people to affirm marriage as one man, one woman, and the people should be deciding this issue.
Carrie, let me jump in here and ask you a couple of questions about that. And I absolutely, I will do all I can on this program to fight gay marriage in this country. There have been, over the last couple of days in various newspapers and publications, there's been some op-ed pieces in USA Today, and there's been other stories like in the Wall Street Journal, etc., saying, why don't people just shut up and go back underneath their rug and let it go because gay marriage is going to be a done deal. They say that we that want to fight it, we're absolutely wasting our time and money. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's not accurate, because look at a case like Roe v. Wade.
Yep.
I mean, that was the same kind of sentiment expressed with Roe back in the 70s. And if you look at the history of case law and you look at the cultural shift even, we are seeing an increasingly pro-life generation. We are seeing people who have this desire to protect the unborn in ways that we've never seen so before. We're seeing that reflected in the states where these states are placing restrictions on abortions and in order to protect the unborn as much as possible. And so I don't think it's a waste. It's certainly discouraging today. I think it's certainly surprising, but millions of people in this country have spoken that marriage is one man and one woman. These people still exist. These people still have these same thoughts. And we here at Alliance Defending Freedom will continue to fight this battle, and will continue to be a resource and a help to anyone who needs us in these states, whether it's the clerks, whether it's the people who are going to the ballot boxes, whether it's state legislators, whether it's attorney generals. We're here for them.
Absolutely. American family values, and I'll be right there with you. I guarantee it. Anything we can do on this program to aid you, we will do that. And Carrie, thank you so much. Carrie Kupek with the Alliance Defending Freedom. God bless you and what you're trying to do. I appreciate everything.
Well, thank you, Zeb. We appreciate you as well.
Thank you very much. Talk to you next week. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Very nice young lady right there with the Alliance Defending Freedom. I just don't understand why we are not going back to traditional, wholesome family values. And on this program, we're going to keep fighting for those. Let's see. We got to pay some bills here real quick. Where are we? Oh, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More. Harvest of Savings. We talked to Brent Lee last Thursday. Oh, my goodness. They've got mattresses. You can get a king mattress for the price of a queen, and they have got mattresses, just piles and piles of mattresses. And they've got all your carpeting, too. You know, when you go in there and say, I'd like to look at your carpeting, you better be prepared to spend some time, because they got rolls and rolls and rolls of carpeting, all the carpeting you could ever need. And, of course, all your furniture, all your window coverings, everything for the beautification and the comfort of your home. At Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see those good folks today. It's time for the weather, and the weather this hour is brought to you by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, with gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps, all through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. The number to call is 678-0459. Right now, here's Michael Rogers' weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. It's going to be sunny all week long. How about that? You need to really enjoy this, okay? So they got 4 inches of snow on the ground in Fairbanks last night, and they're getting 5 more tomorrow. You're going to be sunny, high 75, 53 for the overnight low, and it's going to last all week. Enjoy the weather, so whatever you got.
All right, thank you very much. Michael Rogers weather every hour on the hour right here. Brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems, gas furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, all of this through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, 678-0459. Really, really good folks. In just a few moments, I believe Gina's going to dial up Mary Scott, and we're going to talk a little bit about the menu and some of the activities that are going on over at the Golden Heritage Senior Center. And Gina, if you would just yell at me and let me know when Mary's on the phone, I'd sure appreciate it, okay?
Dialing now.
She's dialing now. By the way, did you hear that the White House actually praised? Yep, they sent a note of praise, and then I believe they also called them the Oklahoma City mosque where the Muslim terrorist killer that beheaded that woman a week ago had attended. They praised the mosque for their quote-unquote community service work during the Oklahoma tornado that took place back in Moore, Oklahoma. But yet, they're having these kinds of people attend that mosque. A little ambiguity there, I'm sure. As I said, we're going to be talking to Mary Scott. There are big things going on at the Golden Heritage Senior Center at 2421 Overland in Burley. And we used to do a lot of projects with the Golden Heritage Senior.
Number that I can call because no answer, no voicemail, no nothing.
Deanne, can you help me out on that and get another number from Mary? And Mary, if you're listening out there in Radio Land, maybe you could call Gina, one of the two, and we'll get you on the air this morning. Deanne, if you're out in the other office and could help us with another number, we would appreciate that, and then we'll try to...
Should I just look up the... Oh, hold on.
I'll bet you that's Mary. She's probably listening and saying, I'm ready. Let's see what happens here.
Yep, it was Mary.
All right, Gina, thank you. Mary Scott, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing wonderful. How about yourself?
Well, I'll tell you what, it was a wonderful weekend. We had all kinds of fun things happen on my birthday last Thursday that were kind of continued on through the weekend, and I just had a really nice time.
Wonderful. I'm glad to hear that.
Hey, Mary, a lot of big things are happening at the Golden Heritage Senior Center, and I thought I'd get you on the air here real quick. Tell us a little bit about the menu that's going to be taking place for the rest of the week over there. What have you got good to eat?
Oh, well, this sounds pretty good to me. On Monday, how about tater tot casserole?
Okay.
And Tuesday, how about a nice pork roast?
Ooh, yeah.
And then Wednesday, how about you coming out and celebrating your birthday with the anniversary turkey dinner?
That sounds good.
Sweet and sour chicken on Thursday?
That sounds really good.
And how about pizza on Friday?
You know, there's a lot of things going on at the Golden Heritage Senior Center, and what about games or crafts or anything like that? Do you have that kind of activity?
We do. We have bingo on Tuesday nights. Opens the doors at 5:30. We have the woodcutters. We have the art ladies that come in and do their art on Thursdays. We have the blind come in on 1 month. That would be Linda Croft and her group. On one Friday a month. We have Pinnacle Mondays at 3 to 5, and then on Thursday night at 5:30, I believe it is.
Okay. And Pinochle, I used to play a lot of Pinochle, but people quit taking and inviting me because I always wanted the bid.
You wanted to bid?
Yeah.
You know, I think I have the same problem.
Oh, okay. Now listen.
But I didn't ever have anything in my hand.
No, that's the same with me. I never was that good a Pinochle player. But now there's another activity that we just want to touch on a little bit, and it's going to take place on November 20th, Thursday, November 20th, and it's going to be the Pilgrim's Pride Thanksgiving Dinner. Tell us a little bit about that, and prepare people to get their tickets early.
Well, you know, we have tickets for $5 a dinner. Now, where can you beat that?
There you go. That's right.
And you're welcome to call us at the center. We're going to have turkey with all the dressings and all the goodies. Plus, if you'd like to come in costume, there's a possibility that you might win a door prize.
There you go.
There'll be games, there'll be entertainment, and just lots of good information will be coming out as we come along.
Yeah, and I understand we're even going to be giving away some turkeys and some hams too, right?
That is true.
Yep.
We will be giving away turkeys and canned hams, actually, isn't it?
Yep. Yeah, we're just looking forward to that, and that's going to be from 5 until 7 or however long people want to eat, and that's going to be on Thursday, November 20th, right there at the Golden Heritage.
We're going to stay as late as we can keep the people coming, and like I said, the tickets are only $5, so You can feed a family of 5 for $25. That's not too bad.
You know, Mary, and the thing is, there's a lot of activity, a lot of fun, and a lot of good people over there at the Golden Heritage, and you are one of them, and I really appreciate your coming on the air this morning.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry. I was looking at the clock, and the next thing I knew, it was time.
Okay. You did a good job of calling in. Mary Scott, thanks so much.
Thank you, Zeb, for allowing me to do it. And you have a great day, and God bless.
I will. Thank you so much. Very, very nice lady. On behalf of the Golden Heritage Senior Center, and I know Linda's sitting there with a smile on her face right now. Everything's going very well at the Golden Heritage, and our seniors have got a lot of things planned over there for this fall, so be a part of it. Oh, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a call. We'll talk about anything you want to talk about. The Ebola virus and the spreading of that deadly disease. Talk about the enterovirus, the spreading of that virus. 43 states right now. 43 states have had victims with the enterovirus, which is a virus comparable to polio with paralyzing effects. And very unfortunately, there's been approximately 4 American youngsters that have passed away with that virus. And it affects mostly ages 3 to 17. And we don't know how or why it got here. Anyway, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, I had a wonderful birthday on Thursday. I felt bad that you weren't a part of it, and I also felt really bad you didn't get a chance to have a piece of that delicious, absolutely phenomenal German chocolate cake.
I know, and I'm feel bad about it too. My waistline doesn't, but I really would love to have had a piece of that. It sounded really delicious.
You know, I got to be honest with you, that the day after my birthday on Friday, I said...
Did you feel bloated?
Did I feel bloated? Let's just say that I regenerated my thinking towards my diet, and I went to the closet, grabbed a pair of Wranglers that I had starched and pressed and slipped them on, went to buckle the little brass button, and all of a sudden I said, no. You realize I had to lay down on the bed, and I had to tug, and I had to squirm, and I had to pull, and I had to fight. And finally I got that little bitty brass button in that little slot, and I went to sit up, and it was like one of those magic acts where they cut people in two. Holy smokes, it's time for a diet, let me tell you.
Did you have to grab out the pair of pliers so you could zip it up?
You know, now I'm not going to get too personal about this, but you don't want to use the pliers because that has a tendency to slip sometimes, so I got the vice grips.
You know, okay, it's been a long time since I've had to do that, actually high school since I've had to do that, but I know the feeling, you know, when you're like, I really want to wear these pants, but darn it, they don't fit, but darn it, I'm going to make them fit anyway.
Well, I can't believe some of those jeans shrunk in the closet.
They do. They have it. I don't know what it is about the closet, but it's like it's got like a magical shrink feature, and every time you stick something in the closet and then you pull it out, you know, a while later they shrunk.
Well, my goal is to lose about 20 pounds. And I know that a lot of people say, well, I don't need to lose 20 pounds. Yeah, I do. Because I've noticed that in the last couple of months of not being that active because of my leg problems and everything, I've put on a little weight. And then, of course, I'm an ice cream fanatic.
Oh, yes.
And I had a lot of ice cream, and I've been celebrating a lot of people's birthdays and other events. And then the other day for my birthday, I mean, when you talk about a German chocolate cake that stands about... That thing was about a good 5-6 inches high with all that frosting. There was a good 1 to 2 inches of frosting on that thing.
That's what makes the German chocolate cake so worth it, though, because you have to pile that frosting high, and you've got to like slowly layer it on there.
Well,
so it's the frosting for me on the cake.
Don Zanino made that cake, and honest to goodness, I think it should be mandatory that we celebrate a birthday once every month.
I'm in agreement, and then we also need to do a potluck.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, holiday season truly is right around the corner, so we need to start sharing some delicious recipes for the holiday season.
Maybe we should put that in the form of a segment.
I think we should, and remember that cookbook that we got?
Yeah.
I think that we should be pulling some recipes out of that cookbook.
You know, folks, if you would like to have a 5-minute segment on recipes for the holidays, call Gina or I. Call Gina at the station or call me on my cell phone at 312-2976 and let us know. And we're open to any ideas like that as we draw closer to the holidays. Maybe about a 3 to a 5-minute segment on various recipes, things like that.
Recipe, and maybe if somebody has a recipe, like a traditional family recipe that they would like to share, email that in.
Yeah.
That's the ranch at hotmail.com or gina@leeradio.net, and we could, compile that, and maybe we could do like a little Zeb at the Ranch cookbook.
Let's do that. Let's have a Zeb at the Ranch cookbook, and anybody that we feature on the air, should we make it a rule that they've got to make the dish and give it to you and I?
Absolutely.
There you go.
Absolutely, because we have to give our honest appraisal of the recipe being submitted. Right?
Boy, I just shot my diet. No more Wranglers.
At least not until after the new year.
I'm going to have to put a piece of spandex in the by the copper button.
They make. Never mind. I'm not even going to mention.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to take about a 6-minute break, and we'll be back with more Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. Welcome back. Hour number 3, Zeb at the Ranch, brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley, Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations serving you, and of course, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service. Call them today, 734-6969. Also, want to remind you, some good eating for you and your friends, neighbors, relatives, family at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Don't forget, today they're having a half a BLT sandwich, super salad, fries or tots, just $5.98. You better get on in, gallop in, have a good time with your friends, enjoy the environment, enjoy the people, enjoy the menu at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Very, very tasty. By the way, like we said last hour, don't forget Lennox Home Comfort Systems with gas furnaces, air conditioners, and heat pumps, always for you and your family through our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric with warm winters and cool summers. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the phone lines right now, and I've been waiting to have this man on my program for the last couple of weeks, and we're looking forward to talking to the chairman for the Idaho Republican Party, Steve Yates. Steve, good morning to you. How are you?
Hi, Zeb. It's great to be with you.
Well, I'm very excited to have you on the air. We're only about 28 days from the midterm elections, and as the new chairman for the Idaho Republican Party, tell me in 25 words or less, how are you going to get cohesiveness and everybody lovey-dovey before the midterms?
Well, everybody lovey-dovey might be a higher bar than we will cross, but I do think that we boil it down to a simple choice between B's and R's. For the last 2 years of the Obama administration, we need a Republican for sure protecting our state's rights.
Steve, honestly, I was being a little facetious, but you do have a rebuilding program. There seems to be a lot of infighting in the Republican Party. There seems to be a kind of a line drawn in the sand with the Tea Party and the Republican Party. How are you going to try to rebuild all this?
Well, I am going to try to get people anxiously engaged in work. Basically, we have a lot of work to do to rebuild, retrain. We have some things to do when we get to November 5th and beyond, looking at the 2016 cycle with the presidential caucus system, rules, resolutions, platform, lots of work to do, lots of appointments that I need to make to committees for people to work together with us on to sort those things through. We've been through this sprint to Election Day with somewhat of a limited plan and a limited budget, stretched in ways that we think make the most sense. And we have tried not to distract from the mandate of November 4th. But we do have a lot of this other work where we need all hands on deck to be involved and be represented. And I see my job as running a system that has simple and well understood rules, evenly applied, and have people come in and ideas will contend, but the votes will count, and that's the party will be.
Steve, one of the biggest problems, and I don't have to tell you this, you've been in politics most all your adult life, but one of the biggest problems is trying to get the voter to the polls to cast a vote. We've seen terrible turnouts in the high teens, low 20s. It's been pathetic. Do you have any ideas as to how we can get people off dead center to go to the polls on November 4th?
Well, I do. I share that frustration, and it's just one of those things where family to family, people get raised, and some have kind of instilled in them a moral obligation to participate in this franchise that so many sacrificed to give us. I had a grandfather that fought in World War II, and I have uncles that fought in Vietnam, and this sort of pounded into our minds that it was a franchise that was not to be taken lightly. I don't say this in a way to dismiss what other people's views are, but it is a little bit shocking to me that so few can bother to take basically 10 minutes out of their day in Idaho. In Idaho, it's really not that hard to get to the polls and vote. And I really, really hope that we can find ways to encourage people. I think for this fall's election, I think people need to understand the stakes are actually kind of significant. I believe that Barack Obama is going to be an activist president for the last 2 years of his administration. He's not going to go quietly into the midnight and golf as much as he may intend to. He intends to be active with his phone and his pen, and we have to choose. Do we believe that A.J. Balikoff and Democrats in office will facilitate that agenda, or will they stand up to that agenda? And whatever our feelings may have been about politics in the last term of office, I just firmly believe that the Republican team is going to be there for us as a reliable bulwark against that overreach from the federal government. I think that's important. Hopefully people will tune into that.
You know, Steve, that was very well stated, but let's just call the color of the horse what it is. We've got a mess right now, I think, for the gubernatorial election between primarily Balikoff and Butch Otter. And I have heard people, and I know you probably have too, I've heard people say that are of the Tea Party and other affections, if you will, that they're not going to vote for Butch Otter because he's not conservative enough. So then they say they're going to cast a vote for Balikoff, which makes absolutely no sense to me whatsoever. Give me your feelings on that subject.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me either. And, of course, where I stand is somewhat a function of where I sit. As a chairman of the Republican Party, of course I'm not going to suggest that it makes good sense for people to vote for the Democrat to try to teach the Republicans a lesson. I also think that there's, frankly, more at stake than just the personal relations that people have or how they feel about the governor or any other official as a person. I think that when we have people that enter public service, they do a lot of things, and we need to take the totality of that into consideration when we're looking for a vote. But really, when it comes down to final call on the general election, it's a Republican versus a Democrat. It was the primary season where we got to select which kind of Republican, and there may be some that are more enthused and less enthused about that choice, but it's really plain and simple. And in my book, it sounds partisan, but I am a partisan. I'm chairman of a party that all Republicans are going to do better than all Democrats on behalf of Idaho values as I understand them.
Let me throw this at you, and I'm pretty blunt, but it seems like education is number one as far as a lot of people's concerns within the state of Idaho. And I've said on my radio program many, many times, and feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong, but you can't just throw money at a problem and expect it to correct itself. And that's what I said about education. Your thoughts about education and why there's such a difference in opinion and attitude, Republican versus Democrat?
Well, I think, Zeb, that there have been a lot of people that have been rehearsing a statistic that isn't actually as meaningful as it sounds. And they usually come from the critics, and they'll talk about Idaho coming in 49th on per-pupil spending. But what they don't tell you is that that methodology is so flawed that if we took the entire budget for the state of Idaho and put every dollar from taxpayers into education only, we would move from 49 to 47 on that scale. So it's kind of a pointless study, and it's just a statistic that's thrown out there to just talk down Idaho and education. Really what we need to be focusing on is how money is spent, and some things are not just money. Just like we have voter turnout issues, we have involvement of parents and communities and making sure that those functions of government are working, getting the right feedback from constituents, and that people in authority are listening to constituents. I have sensed in the last year a real uptick in parental interest and involvement. It's been driven around the debate around Common Core, but regardless of what the target was, I think it's a salutary effect. It's positive to have parents more engaged in their children's education and interacting more with school authorities. I think all of that is far more important than somebody's statistics about who would spend. And frankly, I watched that debate between the gubernatorial candidates in Coeur d'Alene, and A.J. Balikoff basically only had one thing to say about education, and it's more money. Didn't say a single other thing about what policy would change, what approach to education would make a meaningful difference for students, the interests of parents, the classroom itself. And the governor has his 20-point plan. It was informed by people of different parties from different constituencies. Whatever anyone wants to say about the plan, at least it's out there, and it's far more than any challenger has put forward for people to consider.
You know, and Steve, let me just throw this at you, too, that I've read just a little bit about Balikoff and what he wants to do and what he's supported for public schools, and supposedly a leader on the Boise School Board, etc. But I guess I'll be very blunt and say, is he a one-trick pony? Is he a guy that understands the water issues here in the state of Idaho and other states and areas that want to take our water? Does he understand about the use of public lands? Does he understand what the feds want to do to try to keep encroaching on our property? Does he understand about agriculture and the economy? These are things that I don't know too much about this man, but it seems like if he's resting his hat just on one item, the public should beware.
I think you're exactly right, and it's very, very good of you to point out the range of issues that we should be considering when looking at a governor. I was struck when I watched that debate. I wondered whether A.J. had chosen the wrong office to run for, if he should have preferred to run for superintendent of public instruction, because he really did only hit on that one policy issue over and over, and when hitting on it, he only hit on it in one way, money. So I really think that the public they've got a chance to get to know what he's been paying for by way of his advertising, to get a feel for his personality, but they have not had a chance to get a measure of what he would do in public policy. When you aim to be the top chief executive of a state, nation, or any body, really, you don't get to just run one issue. You have a lot of responsibilities. I think it's important for people to dig into that with A.J.
Steve, as the chairman for the Republican Party in the state of Idaho, and also with your past work with former Vice President Dick Cheney, you see the ins and outs and the worries of politics. And right now, I'm seeing 2 years of grave concern for our country, our Constitution, and our value system in this country, with Barack Obama left unfettered for the next 2 years. What can the Republicans do? Are their hands tied, or what can they do to try to change this?
Well, Zeb, I share that concern 100%, and I believe that the recovery needs to begin in the states, and I think that's why I felt very personally compelled to get involved and to hopefully encourage many fellow citizens in the state of Idaho to jump in, associate with the Republican Party, get involved and work within the party to help build a bulwark that protects us against that overreach that we see from the federal government. I don't see it waning. The deficits have come down some, but not anywhere near where they need to be, and the debt is enormous, and that's just going to, I think, feed that demand for overreach from the federal government. We just have to take care of our own home, live by the 10th Amendment, even if it means we need to be making tough choices here at home. I think that's the responsible way forward.
We have a caller with a question. Caller, very fast. Make it short and sweet. Go ahead, please. You're on the air.
Yes, the other day I heard A.J. Malukoff on a debate saying that we couldn't afford to manage our own public lands. And then we couldn't afford to, say, for instance, we were to get more control or all of the control over all of the federal government. 64% of Idaho is owned by the federal government. If we had control over that, the amount of resources that it would be an economic boon to Idaho, and to make a statement that we couldn't afford it showed me that I don't know what to think about this guy. I'll hang up. Thanks.
All right, Steve, would you respond, please?
Well, I agree completely that we should be the stewards of our own resources, and I think that the party is strongly supportive of any strategy that moves us in that direction. Federal government will resist, but I think we need to rise to the challenge.
Steve, one of the things, and I don't have to tell you this because Obamacare was frightening when it came into inception, and it's even more scary today, but Obamacare helped propel our legislature to push for an Idaho Health Exchange here in the state of Idaho. There were a lot of critics that said, no, don't do it, and they've been mad ever since at the Republican Party. I thought it was a way to offer more options over and above Obamacare. What are your thoughts about where we are right now here in the state of Idaho with the exchange and with Obamacare in general?
Well, my view is that we have to face the future and what choices the next governor, I hope it's Governor Otter, reelected to a third term, and the next legislature coming in will have to wrestle with. They're dealing with an exchange that's in place, and they're dealing with a question of Medicaid expansion that the federal government is trying to push. And I think that the Republican Party is strongly supportive of our elected leaders resisting new mandates and trying to make the tough calls about where we go from here. We've had some experience with what's worked and what hasn't worked as well with the exchange, and I think smart leaders will take that feedback and they'll deliberate on what kind of adjustments are necessary. And I don't think that the party should be a shadow legislature telling them which way they ought to go, but we sure will be there to let them know the feedback that citizens are having in their personal experience with the policies that have been made.
Steve, you hear a lot every day about the Democrats. They'll get on television and radio or in the newspaper and they'll say that the Republicans are all elitists and they're arrogant and they're always out for themselves, and the war on women and immigration, etc., and that they're always going to promote just their party and not look out for the little guy in America. How would you respond to those comments?
Well, I come from the suburbs of a town of 300 people. I don't know how many more people there are in the listening audience that come from smaller places than that. I'm sure there are several, actually. And we align with families that promote a civil society where traditional families, faith, and private charity flourish. And I think that's what a lot of the little man in America wants. And that doesn't cut anybody by way of category, race, gender, or anything else. All of those institutions are important for limited government to work. All of them are important for our civil society to flourish. I think that's where we are as Republicans, and I'm comfortable with those values.
One last thought here before I let you go, Steve, on a national level. I'm sure you have got some thoughts in regards to the Republican Party. It seems like it's a slam dunk for the Democrats. They're going to anoint Queen Hillary. But what about the Republicans? Are they going to start pushing some people to the forefront so that we can start to really promote the 2016 elections? What do you think is going to happen, and what should be happening?
Well, I see a very competitive field emerging with no one running away with this on the Republican side at the outset. In a way, I'm happy to have the competition, but I strongly suspect that November 5th going forward, over the weeks before the year is out, we're going to have names drop and people commit, and we'll get into our presidential caucus system here in Idaho, and others will be getting calls and solicitations. A lot of governors from Jindal to Perry, and senators from Rand Paul to Ted Cruz, and several others will be in the mix. I like the competition in the Republican Party, and I look forward to basically seeing them vie for a majority based on values and accomplishment. With Hillary, it's a coronation of someone I think who has a very troubled past. I would not take for granted what she presents by way of a challenge, but I also think that we've got good chances if we select well in our primaries.
I'm going to go back to what we started at the beginning of this conversation, and there was an article written by Christina Jensen about you as chairman of the party, and one of the sentences said, his next hurdle is figuring out how to build the party back up. It sounds to me like you've got some building blocks ready to be nailed together, and you've got optimism for the future. What do you think? Wrap it up with that.
I do have optimism, but I'm also very rational about the amount of work that needs to be done. I won't accomplish this alone. I need a lot of help from a lot of people, and so far I've been grateful for what I've heard.
Steve, I really appreciate you coming on the air. You got to make one promise, though, that you'll be accessible the next time we want to get you back on here. I appreciate it.
You got it anytime, Deb.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Chairman of the Idaho Republican Party, Steve Yates, and I appreciate his taking the time to come on our program this morning. Thank you very much. Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle on the landline, and we'll take your call and talk about any subject you want to. I did notice, and I want to mention this to Gina, too. Are you right there by your microphone?
I am.
Okay. In the Times News, and you know I'm very, very hasty to be negative towards the Times News a lot of times for their mistakes. But in this case, I want to salute them for an excellent story about Burley students leaving the lunch line. And I wanted your comment on this. I talked to Debbie Critchfield last week, and we're going to do a segment on healthy foods, eating in schools, and what the kids will and will not accept, and this is nationwide. There's a lot of schools that have left the Mama Obama lunch line, quite frankly, and because the kids just aren't getting enough. Now, your son goes to a private school, and what about the meals that are prepared for him? Are they under the auspices and guidelines of what the Obama administration wants?
Well, I think that due to St. Nicholas Catholic School, they're having their cafeteria revamped. They're actually busing kids to one of the local elementary schools, so they are eating lunches provided and prepared for by the Minidoka County School District. Now, I do know that he does eat lunch, and I do know that he probably eats most of it. However, he still is hungry by the time he gets home. So what the Minidoka County School District is actually serving the kids, I am under the assumption that it is under the guidelines of what has been federally mandated.
Well, in the story, and I don't have a lot of time right now, but I just want to get your comment. I have talked to parents all over the United States. I've talked to parents back in Wisconsin. I've talked to parents in Indiana. I've talked to parents in Texas. I've talked to parents in Florida, and I've talked to parents here. And many are very, very concerned about the quality of the food, the taste, texture of the food, and the portions of the food. And quite frankly, I'm very upset that we have young athletes that are sitting in the schools all afternoon starving, and then they have to go to practice, whether it's football practice or cross country, whatever the case might be. They're just not getting enough to eat, and one size does not fit all.
No, one size does not fit all. And, to the students at Burley High School, if they're not happy with what's being provided for lunch, I do believe that they have that option to go elsewhere and buy, what they want and what they're going to eat to fill them up, to give them the caloric intake that they need.
You know as well as I do, Gina, that everybody is of different levels in their personality and also their physical makeup. And I'm very adamant that you can't take a 6'4" football linebacker and match it up with somebody that weighs 110 pounds and expect them to eat and grow and mature the same on the same portions of food.
The linebacker needs to be eating double what that 110-pound child needs to be eating. Because that linebacker is going to be using pretty much double the energy and the calories.
We're going to do a little commercial and then send it back over to you, Gina. Thank you very much. I want to remind everybody that every Thursday we have a segment on our program called Cassia County School Days, and we thank Debbie Christensen for everything. Critchfield, pardon me, I don't know why I said that. Debbie Critchfield, she's going to hit me right side the ear for lining up all of our guests and does a wonderful job, and we appreciate it. But we want to say thank you to A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley, and believe me, they've got everything for the family. You need to stop in and check out all the great buys. And they've got the Halloween costumes, 25% off on the costumes. They've got new shoes arriving daily. They've got new holiday dresses arriving, along with hundreds of new infants outfits right there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. You stop in, and don't forget layaways and the books and the puzzles and the games at A Child's World. And then don't forget, too, life-saving colonoscopies performed by outstanding surgeons at the Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley on Highland Avenue. Don't forget other surgeries, too, including tonsils removed, dental procedures needing anesthesia, all taken care of right there at the Ambulatory Surgery Center. Call them today. Ask questions. Find out. 677-8888. That number again, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley, and A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. We'll send it over to our station. We'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, thank you very much. Welcome back to the last half hour of our show for this Monday, and we're going to go to the phone lines right now and talk to a very, very good friend of all of ours, and he is a representative for the state of Idaho and represents this area. Let's give a nice welcome to Mr. Fred Woods. Good morning, Fred. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. I'm doing great, and how are you?
I am fantastic. I certainly hope you had the opportunity to listen to the new chairman for the Republican Party, Steve Yates. Sounds upbeat and has a lot of good ideas.
I'm getting that from everybody who has talked to him. I've not had an opportunity to sit down with him yet. Apparently, we're going to towards the end of October when he's going to be in town here for a short period of time, and I'm really looking forward to that. I did not get to hear that. I heard the first part of the program this morning, but then I had to run an errand and get my truck fixed, so I happened to miss that portion of it. But anyway...
Well, Representative Wood, I'm so glad to have you on the program because I think now we're about, 28, 29 days away from the election on November 4th, and you have always been very supportive of getting people out to the polls to go vote, and there is a lot of things that are very important for this year on the ballot, including proposed constitutional amendments, and that's where I want you to pick it up and explain to people what they need to be aware of on the ballot November 4th.
Thanks, Ed. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to all of your listeners because I think this is very important. As a matter of fact, as I told you, I think I've voted on 5,000 votes since I've been in the legislature in the last 8 years. And I think that this is the most important vote that I have cast of those 5,000 votes to allow this question to come to the voters to enshrine this in the Constitution. Let me take a couple of minutes, Zeb, and go back and explain the basis for this. The first branch, if you remember your civics, the first branch of government is the branch that passes laws, or the legislative branch. The second branch of government, which is the executive branch, then takes those laws and implements those laws. Now, because some of the laws are very technical and sometimes they have to change every year and various other reasons, the legislature grants the executive state agencies, such as Fish and Game, Department of Health and Welfare, Department of Agriculture, etc., the ability to make rules to implement the laws that the legislature passes. Now, it's important, however, that the executive branch of government get it right and get the legislative intent right, because rules become law. And if it's not done with review, then the executive branch of government can actually go around the will of the legislature and create rules that are not related, or as a matter of fact, are just opposite the intent of the legislature.
Right.
And that's exactly what's going on in Washington, D.C. today. 24 years ago, the legislature passed a law stating that the legislature had the right to review and either approve or reject any rule by the executive branch of government, and the governor signed it. It was immediately appealed to the Idaho Supreme Court, and in a 3-2 ruling called Meade versus Arnell, the Idaho Supreme Court upheld the ability of the legislature to review and either reject or approve rules written by the executive branch of government,
right,
and found that it was not an issue with separation of powers. Now, that is held for 24 years, but you can imagine what would happen if an activist court came along, etc. Now, this has worked extremely well for the citizens of the state of Idaho, and we want to enshrine this in the Constitution to make sure that some activist executive branch or some activist court, more importantly an activist court, doesn't take away the legislature's ability to determine whether or not legislative intent is being met. And that's what this is all about, and this will prevent all of the chaos that's going on in Washington, D.C. to ever come back and invade our state.
We are, now again, correct me if I'm wrong, Fred, because you're so well versed in this, but we are seeing this happening right now with the Obama administration. We are seeing this happen on almost a daily basis, to where this man, Obama, skipping and jumping over Congress and over the Constitution and basically asserting his executive power. And that's what I think you're referring to.
That's exactly what I'm referring to, and that's exactly what this is meant to make sure does not happen in the state of Idaho. And as a matter of fact, Zeb, we're the only state in the United States where the legislature has this authority.
Okay. Now,
it's very, very important to keep that.
Why hasn't this issue, in your opinion, come up before for a vote as a proposed constitutional amendment in front of the populace before?
I think that, quite frankly, President Obama has finally pushed things to the point in Washington, D.C., and we're certainly aware of what activist courts can do. And I thank the leadership, specifically Scott Betke, for saying, you know, it's time we actually added more protection in the state of Idaho to this ability of the legislature, rather than relying on some past 3-2 Idaho Supreme Court decision.
Right. Now, Fred, let me ask you, and if I'm wrong on this, I want to stand corrected, but this would it not give us more protection over the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals jumping in and basically legislating how we will do things here in Idaho?
You know, Zeb, you'd have to talk to a constitutional scholar about whether or not the state would ever be able to influence that. I can tell you, I think one of the protections and what you may be driving at is that any rule or statute that went before the Ninth Circuit would certainly be the intent of the legislature, as opposed to the intent of the executive branch of government, right, or some other entity in Idaho state government. It would actually be the will of the people that would be in front of the Ninth Circuit, rather than a rule by the executive branch.
Now, Fred, will this be worded, and I want to be really careful how I word this, but will this be worded so that basically layman's terminology will express the intent and content and the voters will understand it?
Well, Zeb, I happen to have a copy of it right here, and the meaning, purpose, and result to be accomplished, and I can read this in about 1 minute.
Okay.
So with your permission, I'll read the proposed constitutional amendment and the meaning, purpose, and result.
All right,
okay?
Please do, please.
Shall Article 3 of the Constitution of the State of Idaho be amended by the addition of a new Section 29 to confirm that the legislature may authorize executive rulemaking. However, the legislature shall not relinquish oversight, which such oversight is done by approval or rejection in whole or in part of an executive rule, and to provide that the legislature's approval or rejection of such a rule shall not require the approval of the governor. And the meaning, purpose, and result, which is published and will be on the ballot, says the following. The legislature's ability to approve or reject executive rules is an important aspect of the separation of powers because these rules have the force and effect of law. Existing law allows Idaho state agencies to make rules that implement or interpret statutes passed by the legislature. The legislature currently oversees that rulemaking process by accepting or rejecting adopted rules. The proposed amendment confirms and protects the legislature's practice to authorize executive branch rulemaking and to accept or reject adopted rules. That's what's going to be on the ballot.
All right, now,
I think that's fairly straightforward.
Absolutely. Now, Fred, I don't see how anybody could misconstrue the meaning of this, and quite frankly, in very layman's terminology, what it does by having, and correct me again if I'm wrong, but by having this proposed constitutional amendment, it basically keeps the power of what's happening in the state of Idaho with the people, correct?
That's exactly it. This protects the will of the people through the branch of government that is closest to the people, which is the legislature. And this truly protects the will of the people because at the beginning of every legislative session, Zeb, every rule comes before the legislature, whichever committee has jurisdiction over that state agency. For instance, health and welfare, we spend 2 weeks at the beginning of every section reviewing every rule. We have a public hearing on every rule, and if there's a citizen that doesn't like any rule in state government, they have the opportunity to come and to talk to the legislature and tell us what's wrong with that rule and how we can fix it. And if we need to, we can then reject it, send it back to the executive branch, and have them fix it.
Absolutely. Now, Fred, it would seem to me that this should be a slam dunk in favor of having this constitutional amendment, but I'm sure that in the case of everything, there's always another side. What's the other side's argument against it?
Well, this is the only constitutional amendment that I have ever seen, Zeb, that passed the House of Representatives 70-0 and the Senate 35-0, which means that every single Republican and every single Democrat voted for this. Now, that ought to tell you that there's probably not much opposition out there. I think the only opposition that anybody could come up with is, well, you have the law, so why do you need to put it in the Constitution? And I think anybody who has looked at what the courts have done can figure out why it needs to be in the Constitution.
Absolutely. Now, Fred, we're going to keep telling people about this right up to November 4th, Election Day. Is there anything else that you think needs to be defined to my audience this morning about this amendment?
I don't think so, Zeb. Senator Cameron, Speaker Bedke, and myself are going to produce a radio ad that we're going to have on your program, on other programs, leading up to this election. Zeb, this is such a slam dunk that I can't imagine anybody being against it. I can tell you that anybody that has had to deal with the Environmental Protection Agency, anybody in agriculture, anybody in any line of business, anybody who has had to deal with federal rules and regulations, they ought to be for this, and they ought to be beating the drum for this like you can't imagine.
Fred, before I let you go this morning, and I know I didn't give you any advance warning on this question, but I'm very, very concerned. Over the weekend, I did quite a bit of study regarding what's going on with this Ebola scare coming into the United States, and you, as a doctor, you understand more so than most people what could or what might happen. What are your thoughts about, in my terminology, the laxity of this administration really looking out for the American public? Are you as concerned as I am, or are my fears misguided?
Well, you should talk to my wife about how when the Ebola report came on last night, I was sitting on my chair literally screaming at the television, pulling my hair out, wondering why the administration has done nothing to protect this country. You know, Zeb, this is it's tough, but still today, the best way to treat any infectious disease is quarantine and isolation. Okay? Now, why on earth are we allowing air travel or any other kind of travel from those countries that have Ebola circulating around into the United States at least until the Ebola epidemic burns itself out and is gone? Mm-hmm. I mean, allowing people to come into this country, air, land, sea, however they come into this country, from areas where the Ebola epidemic is in full blossom, is just insanity. We're just asking to get that virus embedded in this country permanently, and that is just irresponsible.
Fred, we have a president that has never done anything with the military. He's been a community organizer, and yet he's telling the generals how to fight a major war in the Middle East. We have a president that doesn't know anything about medicine, and yet we have Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal that's a physician. He thinks this is complete idiocy the way it's being run. You are a physician. You think this is absolutely defying logic. What in the world can be the matter with this man? Is it his ego? Is it a party platform? Why are they throwing caution to the wind?
You know, Zeb, I woke up this morning and it was a pretty day, and I was having a good day till I got on your program and started asking questions like that.
Gee, now you make me feel bad.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I have... You know, I'm always careful to try to never assign intent to people's actions, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But for the life of me, I don't understand it. I mean, in medicine, I was never trained that way. I don't think anybody else was trained that way. You know, I think there's a lot of consensus amongst historians that had Adolf Hitler turned the war over to his generals about 3 or 4 years prior to the end of the war, the outcome may have been different, but he tried to run the military campaigns. I don't know what it is about people who get to a certain level of power, but I don't know that you're probably, you know better than I do. I don't have any idea.
Well, I want to wrap things up this morning, and I've only got about a minute and a half left. But you and I have talked about this next subject at great length. We need to get a higher voter turnout. This 19, 20, 23, 26% is ridiculous. This is a very important election coming up on November 4th. Please tell the voters to get out and vote. Now is a good time to kick this off.
Zeb, you're exactly right. You know, when the people elected me and I went to the state capitol and walked in the rotunda the first time and sat down and looked around, I thought, my goodness, the responsibility that I have asked for and have been granted is, I was almost overwhelmed. I sat there and just thought, this is incredible. But I've come to learn that every single individual citizen has to come out and speak your mind about who goes to your state capital and makes the laws and whatnot that you have to live by and you have to abide by. And if you're too busy to do that, if you can't get off the tractor, you can't get off the harvester, you can't get off the combine, you can't walk out of your accounting office, you can't walk out of the grocery store or whatever to go vote, then you literally are just giving up your right to have any input about what happens to you over the next 2 to 4 years. And Zeb, that's just wrong.
Absolutely.
We absolutely need to take the time to go vote.
Absolutely.
For everybody.
Absolutely.
Come out and vote.
Representative Fred Wood, a dear friend, and I certainly appreciate and thank him for coming on and talking about the constitutional amendment, and we'll be talking more about that in the upcoming weeks. Fred, thank you. God bless you, and I'll look forward to visiting with you again real soon.
Zeb, thank you so much. Have a good day.
You bet. Thank you very much. It's time for the weather. My goodness, we're running a little bit late here, but the weather this hour brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, my goodness, locally owned custom meat processor for over 20 years. Oh, they guarantee everything they sell. You've got to try one of those marinated tri-tips for any occasion. Good. Delicious. Absolutely, they sell taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers for Zeb at the Ranch. It's going to be sunny all week long. How about that? We need to really enjoy this, okay? So they got 4 inches of snow on the ground in Fairbanks last night, and they're getting 5 more tomorrow. You're going to be sunny, high 75, 53 for the overnight low, and it's going to last all week. Enjoy the weather, so what do you got?
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to you by our friends Don and the rest of the crew at Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Number to call, 324-7657. Selling taste one bite at a time. Oh, it is good. Tomorrow on the program, holy smokes, I tell you, due to the fact that I celebrated my birthday last week, I was a little lax about staying in the office and taking care of all the business at hand, and I know that we're probably going to have attorney from Los Angeles, James Herson, talking about various subjects. I think he's going to talk about Pierce Morgan and gun control tomorrow, and then Dr. History, and then we'll have some other guests booked too, so stay tuned for that. Don't forget, huge tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 locations with a great big tire sale on all the tires you need for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, whatever. And tires like the Ultra Z900 or the Open Country AT2. You stop in and talk to the pros. They know all about tires. They know all about the best tread designs for your type of driving. All of these guys and gals at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, along with the best in brake service, front end alignment, shocks and struts, batteries, all of it for your safe driving at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. The very, very best. Wow. Gina, anything you want to add to this morning? I mean, I didn't have a chance to talk to you very much today.
That is okay. Actually, I'm just getting ready to go into the programming meeting as soon as we're done here. So, yay. And I'm tired.
You know, those kind of meetings, don't you just sit there? And I was at a real estate meeting here about a week ago, and I think I told you I sat there and I tried the best I could to cover it up, you know, so that I'll sit kind of crooked in the chair and rest my chin on my hand, and then that way your head won't bob and weave off the table.
Yes. And so you won't do the nod?
Yeah, I went through the nod, but I did fall asleep one time. And they asked me if I could please pay attention, so I got credit for the course.
And you're like, oops, sorry. And then you always feel so embarrassed when they actually catch you, like, nodding off. And there's a couple of times, and this is like when I was in college, where I caught myself snoring a couple of times. I woke myself up, yeah.
You know, but if you let your chin get down to your chest and then you start drooling, it's hard to cover up the wet spot on your shirt when you wake up.
Oh, that is so true, so true. So our programming meeting usually only lasts maybe about a half hour or so it shouldn't be too long, but they're usually pretty boring.
Is Kim going to run it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, actually Brock does.
Oh, my goodness. Okay, well, as long as I thought maybe Kim was coming in with his white and brown shoes and everything.
Actually, no, they have the sales meeting. The sales meeting is at 9 o'clock in the morning on Mondays. And then we have the programming meeting. We just switched the time to 11 o'clock so I could actually attend.
You got more meetings than Congress does.
I know.
Holy smokes.
I know.
Anyway, thank you much. It's good to have you back, and you made it off the Cloverleaf up at Richland, Washington.
Yes, that was quite confusing, but honestly, I just have to say the look on my daughter's face was priceless when we delivered the car, and so for me, that made all of the blood, sweat, and tears and crying and cussing worth it.
That's nice.
It made it worth it.
I'm going to wrap it up and say tomorrow we'll start again at 8:06, Zeb at the Ranch, right here on KBAR 1230 and streaming live all over the world on ZebBell.com. God bless you. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning.